What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp, Fightful.com here, giving you a bit of a preview of this week's Fightful Select Q&A podcast. I answer over 120 questions on the Q&A podcast, and when you subscribe, you get to ask as many questions as you want. I do these at least 2 times a month. Then I do some text-based Q&As as well. You can ask me questions during any Raw, SmackDown, pay-per-view show. Make sure you guys subscribe, FightfulSelect.com, and check out all that we have to offer. Charlie says, what do you think Brock's career would have been like if he pursued MMA immediately after leaving Minnesota? Well, what we've learned is that Brock Lesnar started training MMA probably 2005-ish, and within 3 years, he was UFC champion. And the thing is, he was UFC champion about 15 months after debuting in MMA. After debuting in MMA. He announced in April 2006 that he was going to fight. So that's such a quick turnaround. So Brock Lesnar left Minnesota after the 2000 season. Like he won the NCAA Heavyweight Championship. And around that time, Randy Couture beat Kevin Randleman to become UFC Heavyweight Champion. Now, Randleman was eventually a middleweight. Randy Couture jumped up between light heavyweight and heavyweight throughout his career. And Pedro Hizzo was getting title shots on the regular. Keep in mind, MMA was not nearly as advanced in 2000, 2001 as it was in 2008. So I don't know how much cross-training Lesnar would do, but to be fair, he didn't use a whole lot of cross-training. He used a lot of collegiate wrestling. He used pretty much the skill set that he had already developed years and years before. I don't believe that a 37-year-old Randy Couture would be able to stop a younger Brock Lesnar any better than he did 5 years later or 8 years later. I think that Brock Lesnar would have stood a real good chance in stepping right into the UFC and becoming UFC heavyweight champion. However, he had to learn that submission lesson from Frank Mir. So I don't know if somebody teaches that to him along the way. Because around that time, Josh Barnett was emerging. Josh Barnett was really making a name for himself. Josh Barnett was doing a lot of great things. Josh Barnett, although not the submission wrestler that he is today, had a very good submission game about him and became UFC heavyweight champion. I think maybe he could have been the Frank Mir to Lesnar that Lesnar would experience later on. But Tim Sylvia, I don't think Tim Sylvia beats Brock Lesnar, a young Brock Lesnar. Frank Mir probably does because in like 03, 04, sure. Could have Arlovsky, maybe. That's a possibility. But to be honest with you, I think that Brock Lesnar would have contended in the UFC from 2000 all the way through pretty much when he left the UFC. The only issue is, as Samoa Joe pointed out in an interview with me, there wasn't money in it then. There was money in the WWE and pro wrestling.